Hi, my name is Musi Legacy. I am a senior at the University of Maryland. I am a biochemistry major at the University of Maryland. Um, Before I get into what we're going to talk about today, I wanted to say I hope everybody's staying safe in this COVID 19 situation going or happening around the world. Hope you're practicing social distancing, staying home, washing your hands. But I'm not here to talk about COVID 19. I'm here to talk about creatine. Um, Kind of rhymes, huh? But totally different things. So I'm gonna talk about what it is. I'm gonna talk about how creatine works. So we're gonna get into a little bit of chemistry. I'm gonna talk about the benefits of creatine, and I'm gonna talk about misconceptions, so forth, things that we're gonna discuss today. So, I also want to say that I have notes in front of me. So if I'm looking down at my notes. So forgive me if I keep looking down. So starting with what creatine is in this context that I'm speaking on, I'm speaking on the supplement creatine. Um, so maybe let's define what a supplement is. So according to Google, a supplement is something that either completes or enhances something else. Um, we will speak about what creatine itself is, how it acts as a supplement, but let's talk about what creatine is in general. So, outside of it being a supplement, creatine is an amino acid substrate found in skeletal muscle. Um, it's essential in how the body renews energy, uh, and so the reason people take creatine as a supplement is to improve how the body renews the energy it uses. So that kind of begs the question: how does creatine do that? How does it play a role in how the body renews energy? So organisms in general, they use this high energy molecule called ATP to conduct basic functions like movement and digestion. Anything that you think about that's happening in your body is being fueled by ATP. But what fuels ATP? So I guess before we get into what fuels ATP, let's talk about how ATP works. So where does the energy in ATP come from? ATP is a molecule with three phosphates, and when one of those phosphates breaks, it releases energy, and the body uses that released energy to perform the bodily functions that we talked about a few seconds ago. So the way creatine, comes into the situation is that creatine takes that released phosphate and puts it back to the ATP, so that the ATP now again has three um, phosphates and it's no longer ADP. I don't really want to get into what ATP is or what ADP is in detail because it's not important for what creatine is. Um, but basically, what creatine does is it helps you, or it helps ATP find a phosphate for it to be a complete molecule again, so it can break, release more energy. So I guess that if I were to put it in the simplest form, is ATP, the more creatine you have in your body, the faster you can replenish your ATP once it's been used. And so now that we know what creatine is and how how it works, we can talk about the benefits, why people would use that, why would people want to replenish their energy at a faster rate than normal. And it's that's because for athletes in particular, they want to have every advantage over their opponent or whoever they're competing against. And studies have shown that creatine is um, essential in lean mass. Sorry, I'm looking at down my notes to remember also. So it helps in having more explosive muscle power, increases strength, um, increases recovery time, decreases fatigue, increases endurance time, and also increases muscle mass. But the muscle mass has kind of two-parter because um, creatine itself, by its nature, retains water. And we've already said in the past that creatine is found in the skeletal muscle cells. So if you're retaining water in your muscle cells, or your muscle in general will look bloated because the cells in particular have more water than they would normally. So your physique will look a little more plump because of the muscle that or the water that you're retaining. And to add to that is also, since creatine replenishes energy, that means when you work out, you can uh, introduce more stimuli to that particular muscle. More stimuli you introduce to the muscle, the faster the rate of growth of that muscle. So that's how creatine increases muscle mass. One, because the retained water, and two, because the increased stimuli. Um, so basically that's the benefits of why people or an individual will use creatine. So going into the basic misconception, the first one is that creatine damages your kidneys and your liver. That is one of the biggest reasons why people won't use creatine, because they feel like, oh, it's really good at helping you build muscle or endurance and muscle mass, but it can damage your vital organs. But that's not true. It doesn't actually damage your vital organs. It's actually one of the safest supplements that you can use on the market. And another misconception is, yes, it increases your muscle mass, but also increases your fat mass. And that's not true also. It's been shown in studies that creatine only affects lean body mass. So it only plays a role in your muscle mass, which is a good thing. As long as you're working out and taking your creatine, you won't get fat. You'll be getting muscle. So another misconception is creatine isn't good for old people. That's also wrong. So as we know, as people get older, they tend to lose more muscle mass. I think the condition is called carpenia or scarpenia, but that's not a point. So the older you are, the less likely that you would have the same muscle mass as you would have had when you were younger. And so, as we talked about, creatine increases the muscle mass in your body, so it can be helpful for elderly people to take creatine to help them either rebuild or retain their muscle mass as they get older. That's the end of the video. We went over what creatine is, we went over how it works, we went over the benefits, and we went over 3 misconceptions. Hope this video was informative. Hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye.